Okay, welcome to another interview on Sky Blue Stories. This time we're joined by former Coventry City midfielder Ivor Lawton. Ivor, thank you for your time. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Alex. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Result last night was a bit questionable, but we'll brush that aside. So we'll just get straight into it. First of all, talk us through your route into football.
Oh, good question. Where do I begin? I think from an early age, when I was 5, 6 years old, down at Mount Nard in Hill, always played locally in Coventry, and then from the age of 7. I got picked up by Coventry pretty early. Had a couple of other clubs interested, Villa and Wolverhampton and, Leicester, clubs like that. But obviously Coventry was, being a Coventry boy, was the only route for myself. Was there then till, so my first professional contract at 15, which was probably one of the highlights of my short career. And then in my debut when I was 19 against Yeovil away. And then unfortunately for me, a week later, pretty much snapped every ligament in my knee, which was a tough pill to swallow. But I eventually left Coventry when I was 21. Played non-league for a little bit afterwards, but my body was never quite the same. And unfortunately for myself, had to retire at the age of 24.
Yeah, so you've covered a lot of bases there from what I was going to ask you, but we'll go a bit more in depth. So you mentioned you're from Hill, Coventry fan. I presume you went to Highfield Road quite a lot as a child. Signing for your club, it must have just been an honour. Yeah,
it was brilliant. There was, and in all honesty, I know we'll probably touch on this later when I'm an injury. I didn't want to play for anyone else apart from Coventry. I was Sky Blue through and through. So when I got released, it was a very very strange feeling, to try and carry on my career. Coventry, when I first signed my first professional contract at 15, that was an amazing feeling for me and family. Because there was a lot of boys older than me who still didn't have their contract, 17, 18-year-olds. And the fact that Richard Stevens and Gregor Rioch put their trust in me at an early age. I think Andy Form was actually the manager at the time. Yeah. They seen the qualities in myself as a 15-year-old, training with the 18s, and that was probably one of the highlights of my career, definitely.
So you were under 23s captain for a while. You must have worked under various managers around the club at the time. Obviously, your big break come under Tony Mowbray, who we'll touch upon later. But Stephen Presley, even Mark Robbins, if I'm right in saying, what were they like?
A lot of managers, yeah. So going back to even when Andy Form was there, had a couple of dealings with him. Mark Robbins the first time round, obviously before he left for Huddersfield. Stephen Presley, Russell Slade as well, Tony Mowbray. A lot of managers, and I think looking back at it now, it's actually a good experience. Because don't get me wrong, I think Tony Mowbray is a massive character for me, and he's someone to really balance stuff with. I think you saw the qualities that he probably had as a player himself, and I really got on well with him. And his man management was just excellent. Everyone used to come into Coventry and they used to love it. The environment around the place and the culture was brilliant. So I learned a lot from him. And even though, fortunately for me, I was injured a lot of the time he was there. But obviously for myself now, I'm stepping more into coaching and managing. So it's probably good for myself to see 4 or 5 managers, see, how they come across, how to deal with certain situations, and, use that experience for myself moving forward.
Did you ever get a telling off of any of them, and what was it for?
I won't go into too much detail, but I didn't see eye to eye with some of them. And all of them are very passionate, obviously, but yeah, I won't go into too much detail, but there's a lot of stories I could tell you off this call, probably.
I can understand. So your debut against Yeovil, you called off the bench, crossed that white line. It must be cloud 9.
Yeah, my debut was brilliant, don't get me wrong, but in all honesty, it should have come a lot sooner. When Stephen Presley was in charge, we had a pre-season out in Italy, and believe it or not, I was more of a probably defensive or box-to-box midfielder, more of a Roy Keane sort of figure in there. But, I was playing out on the wing, so I was playing out of position, but I had the pre-season of my life. And remember the first game of the season when I was first year pro, it was Bradford City away in League One. And I said to my family,
We lost 3-2.
Yeah. But I said to my family, I said, come down, so I'm definitely going to be at least on the bench. I'm going to be involved here. I can feel it. Because I literally played out on the skin in pre-season. So I thought, this is it now. This is my time to break through season. and, starting getting some games in. And then first game of the season come round, I wasn't in the squad. And there was nothing more personally that I could have done to get in there. And it was very sort of demotivating for myself, that was. But yeah, making my debut, it was a great experience. Again, Tony Mowbray giving my debut. Just unfortunate for me, a week later, I got a bad tackle against Crystal Palace reserve game, and pretty much snapped every ligament in my knee. So
we'll touch upon that injury in a sec. But if you don't mind me asking, because I can imagine this is quite an emotional subject for you. I remember after your debut against Yeovil, quite a touching picture where you handed your grandfather your shirt from the match. Yeah. And that must be one of the highlights, not only of your career, but of your life, surely. Just such a proud moment. Yeah,
well, I won't go into too much detail, but my granddad was in hospital at the time, and he passed away a couple months later. But that was the best feeling of my life. That was, I went to Walsgrave Hospital and I gave my granddad my shirt and had a picture of him and stuff, and it was, meant the world to me, that did. Because even my granddad was struggling probably like a year or so before that. He would always come up to the games. I remember him coming up to the youth cup games at the Rico, and you know what the steps are like at the Rico. And he's literally, he climbs up half the steps, had to have a 2-minute break, and then climb up those. And I thought, someone like that, I can look up to. He was pretty much the glue of my family, And I think the effort he went into to support me throughout my career and everything, just credit to him. And obviously, now I want to try and make him proud and do things in my football career, So that was an amazing feeling for me, mate, if I'm being honest. And, something I'll definitely cherish forever.
Yeah, it was a really touching moment to see as a fan as well. It must have been amazing. So that season, obviously, you mentioned you made your debut, but then you, in the space of, like you mentioned, a week, you've gone from the high of making your debut to a low, and you've picked up this horrible injury. How did it even happen? And what, you must have been gutted.
Yeah, well, I can talk you through the situation. I don't want to speak about it at all. So I think his first 5 minutes, Crystal Palace away, reserve game, I was captain, and the ball was just bouncing up. And in all fairness, it's probably 60-40 this lad's favour to win the ball, and I've gone in for it. I wouldn't say it was necessarily a dirty tackle, but I've gone in for it and I planted my leg, and he's come in sort of, the ball's on the bounce, he's gone through the ball, but he's come into my standing leg. And to actually walk you from injury, I snapped, not just, I didn't have a tear, I actually snapped my medial ligament, my ACL, my meniscus, and I cracked something else in my knee. So imagine people that just get an ACL injury, that's hard to take. I pretty much did all three and snapped them all. And I could tell, I had the phone call a week there after the scans. I could tell, I went to see the surgeon. When they first told me, just cried my eyes out, if I'm being honest. So we got to my debut, and I'm not a big crier, but I can control my emotions there. And I went to see the surgeon, a guy called Pete Thompson, and I could tell, I was sitting there with my physio, Dave Hart, at the time. Dave Hart was absolute, top guy.
He was around the club for quite a while, wasn't he?
Dave Hart, mate, what a guy, in and around the place, great guy, just personality and banter, but as a physio, top drawer as well. And I think, credit to him, I'm still physically fit. I still run, 3 times a week. So I think that's all down to him as well. But I remember going to see Pete Thompson with him, and I could just tell by the look in his eye. He didn't say it, but I could tell he was thinking, listen, mate, you'll do well to, run again properly after this. I could tell he was sort of thinking that. And he said, look, you're going to be out for probably about 15 to 18 months. So as you can imagine, that's not good. And I managed to come back within 13, 14 months. But again, I think I probably rushed that a little bit because I was out of contract. And if I'm being honest, I had no choice. I had to get myself as fit as I could possible and, try and get a new contract.
Yeah. So that season, obviously, if we move away from your story just for a second, if we may, we were flying. We were flying at one point. We had possibly one of the best teams League One has ever seen. It was unreal. You look at the. I remember that photo from Legends Day, and I think most of the players have gone on to play Premier League football.
Yeah.
What went wrong? What changed?
Well, that's a good question. Again, it's probably difficult for me because we did have a lot of strong characters in the team. The only thing I could say was maybe there was too many characters, maybe there was too many superstars in the team.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes that doesn't, work. I mean, you say that, but the football we were playing under Mowbray was brilliant, mate. It was absolutely brilliant. Everyone was loving coming on a daily basis. I think Mowbray was a massive reason why Joe Cole was brought into the club as well.
Yeah.
I think, without being disrespectful to obviously our club and our city, I don't know if Joe Cole would have come to Coventry without Mowbray being there, because Mowbray was such a imposing figure. Look at the team we had. You had Ryan Kent, who's obviously doing well now at Rangers. You had Flecky, who's just probably the best player I've ever played with. John Fleck, Ronan Vincelot, Madison. You had so many good players: Jacob Murphy, Adam Armstrong, Joe Cole. Yeah. I don't know why it didn't work, in all honesty. But I mean, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think we were still, 7th or 8th. So it wasn't like it was a terrible season, but on paper, with the team we had, we should have won that league. I think everyone knows that. But sometimes things don't happen, and like I said, maybe there was just too many superstars and too many key figures in that team. I don't know.
Would you have trained with Joe Cole, or would you have been injured at that point when he come in?
Well, I spent a lot of time with Joe, so I know Joe really well, and that was because when Joe come to the club, he didn't really train too much. He was looking after his body a little bit more, and obviously I was on the physio bed, so I spent a lot of time without kicking a ball with him, which I'm gutted about. But I got to really know Joe, and obviously the first time he come in, it was like, Jesus Christ, Joe Cole sitting over there. It's just unbelievable. And then after one day, it was like he's your best mate. He's just the most down-to-earth, most humble guy I've ever met. And, credit to him as well, because even though I was injured, he spent a lot of time with me and said, look, go and watch training, go and watch games, and actually study the game, from the sideline. So he's a really good character, mate, and someone I look up to as well.
So the season after, you actually modelled the kit. Did you ever see yourself as a model?
What are you trying to say, mate?
I'm not trying to say anything, but
listen, I've got a face only my mother could love, No, I couldn't, but I think, to be fair, one thing I would say, I think I was injured at the time, obviously, and that was probably something to lift my spirits, and it worked. Because everyone got leaflets through the post, and the amount of texts, the amount of calls I've had about the new kit, and everyone saying, look at your ugly mug from my post, or on the paper, it was brilliant. And it did give me a bit of a lift as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
And in all fairness as well, I don't think I would have found someone who's more passionate about commentary than me.
Yeah.
So, it was really good to do that. Also, I think Dion and Devon Kelly Evans were involved as well.
Yeah.
Good, commentary boys as well. So I'm happy they did that and got lads, local boys to do it as well.
So that season, you left halfway through, I believe, but obviously the club, if you went a year before, was top of League One with an unbelievable team, and then the year after, it was completely unrecognisable. It must have been quite a difficult place to be around.
Yeah, it was. It was, to be honest. And I won't go into too much detail, but stuff that happened to me towards the end, a lot of people don't see, and I wasn't treated the best.
Yeah.
But I won't go into too much detail about that. But it wasn't a good place to be around. And again, Russell Slade coming to the club when it was in a bad place, and every Cov fan will slate Russell Slade, and I always stick up for him because I know Russell Slade as a person, and to me, I was there. So I was trained at Coventry for 6 months without taking a penny. I wasn't on contract, and I was just while I was doing other trials at various clubs, I was just training every day with the 23s to keep myself fit. Russell Slade let me carry on to do that, along with Mark Robbins as well. But Russell Slade was top draw, absolute top draw. His man management to me personally was great. Obviously, the signings he made, and it didn't work out for him on the pitch and the football side of things. I completely get that, and it didn't work out for him. Let's be honest. But you got to remember, he did take on the club as well. We're in a really difficult patch.
Yeah.
So as a person, I've got no bad words to say against him at all. But it was a difficult place to be around, and obviously Robbins come in, I believe, when we went down, and then I think the best thing we ever did with the club was going down, because we went to League Two. We had that rebuild then, and credit to Mark Robbins and the job he's done so far.
So you mentioned obviously the rebuild of the club, and that you could argue that started at the Checker Trade Trophy final. And if I'm right in saying you just left the club and you didn't feel in the right place of mind to go and watch that?
No, I felt out of love. Like I said earlier on, Coventry was the only club I could see myself ever playing for.
Yeah.
I fell out of love with the game for a little while. But again, going back to the way I was treated, I couldn't do it to myself. And I love Coventry to bits. I go up to the games now when I get the chance when I'm not got my own football commitments. But it took me a while to get over that. And not just myself as well. There's other boys that haven't been treated the best as well. But I won't go into too much detail for now.
Yeah.
But people don't see that side of the game as well. They've got to remember it's a business,
Yeah.
And when you go from being a Coventry from the age of 6 to 21 years old, and then there's no aftercare or anything like that involved.
Yeah.
When you treat it towards the end, it's not nice.
So you had a trial at Port Vale as well. Did you have any other offers to perhaps stay in the Football League, and did it not work out, or did you not fancy it? Did you only see yourself at Coventry?
I was never fit enough. I couldn't come to terms with it there, but my knee, I just couldn't. I was missing training sessions, even going on trials at different places. I went to Port Vale. To be fair, I'd done really well at Port Vale. They had 6 trialists coming the door. I was the only one left. I was actually training at the time with Danny Pugh, who was at Coventry for a little while.
Yeah.
He was at Port Vale at the time. And if I'm being honest, I probably should have got a contract looking back at it.
Yeah.
But I probably didn't deserve one because I wasn't fit enough and I was trying to hide. My knee was swelling up all the time. I was having ice baths late at night. I was trying to hide my situation with my injury quite a lot. But I did really well. We had a 23s game. We got beat, and then I didn't get the contract off the back of that, which is fine. Went to Inverness for a little bit. Went up
just
there
down the road.
Just down the road, yeah. Just about 9-hour drive down the road. Lovely place, Inverness, though. Lovely place. Passionate people as well. Really passionate about the football. But yeah, again, 2 weeks was absolutely fine. Pulled my hamstring, but again, it was on the side my knee was on.
Yeah.
And then I sort of fell into non-league football. I said to myself, I'll go non-league, play part-time for a little while, get myself fit, and then get back into the full-time route. And I ended up at Hellzone Town. And what a club Hellzone Town is, by the way. If you're in non-league, you want to play for a club like Hellzone. The people are brilliant. I fell in love with the club. My initial sort of situation was go there for 3 or 4 games, get fit, and then go back up or go full-time. But the people around the club ended up playing just under 100 games there.
Yeah.
But again, I was always struggling with my knee. After games, I was having injections in my knees every month. It was just a really continuous bad cycle for myself. And then I went to Stratford Town for a little bit, and then I made a decision to retire. So I was obviously non-league. I could cope with it a little bit better because it was only Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So my knee could recover that little bit more. But even then, I was still struggling. I was still missing games. And I thought, 23, 24 years old, I thought, well, do I want to be a struggling non-league player, or do I want to be a young coach, young manager, and go into this route? So I made that decision then that I want to be a young coach, I want to be a young manager, and that's what I'm doing now. And also for myself, I'm being completely transparent. I was so dedicated to the full-time football lifestyle. I love the whole dedication towards it, diet. I didn't drink, didn't do anything like that. I lived my life religiously dedicated to football. And when I went part-time, and you see lads drinking after games and stuff like that, it just wasn't really for me. I just
it wasn't your vibe, if that makes sense.
Exactly that. It wasn't how I was brought up, and I couldn't really adapt to that a little bit as well.
Do you think that's coming in from the professional game, and it's just 100%. A bit of a culture change? It's just
100% with me, Alex. Football was all or nothing. When I was playing football, it was all or nothing, and I couldn't even. I couldn't go training, and I couldn't just have a laugh and a joke around. I was training. I was 100%. You train as you play, and that was always a mentality I had. So I think I made the right decision to retire because obviously my knee I couldn't do it for much longer anyway. I saw a specialist, and they said, look, if you carry on the way you are with your injections and having ice baths every day, they said by the time you're 30, you're going to be walking with a limp. And
you just had to make that decision.
Yeah, exactly that. It was it was a tough decision to make, but the best decision I've ever made as well, if I'm being honest.
So final question. Obviously, you mentioned you wanted to go into a young coach manager's role. Whereabouts are you now, and how are you finding it?
Yeah, so when I retired, I literally, again, I fell out of love with the game. I was quite bitter. For 6-7 months, didn't watch any football on TV, didn't do anything. I just did nothing to do with football. And then I got a call from a guy called Jason Poyet, who was the manager at Racing Club Warwick at the time. And he was asking me to come be a player. And I said, no, look, I've retired. And then he said, well, I'm looking for an assistant manager if you fancy that. And I thought about it and I thought, yeah, why not? And then from that, my love just for football just kick-started again. And a good experience at Racing Club Warwick. The season was void due to COVID. It was that whole transition with COVID and stuff. The manager left, and out of loyalty to him, I left as well. And then recently in October, November time, I stepped into Coventry United. They didn't have a manager or anything like that. So I knew a couple of their players, and I said to their chairman at the time, I said, look, I don't want any money or anything like that. I just want to come in, do some training sessions with the boys, do the warm-up match days, little things like that, and put a bit of structure in place for them moving forward. Since then, it's evolved to me now being like, pretty much doing everything. So I'm pretty much the manager there at the moment, without having the official title. But it's a good experience for me. Even little things like in the changing room and engaging with the lads. Trying to handle man management, different personalities. I'm going to use all of this experience now moving forward and try and hopefully get back to where I was as a player. Fingers crossed one day. That is in the for sort of long-term future though, because I do have a day job now as well. I work in recruitment, so try and balance everything at the moment, and then take these experiences moving forward and see where it takes me.
So I think that wraps everything up. Ivor, thank you very much for your time. I know you've got a very busy schedule and we've had to kind of squeeze this in really short notice, but thank you ever so much for coming on. It's really appreciated.
No worries, Alex. Thanks for your time, mate.